Unlike other ways of eating where we use food as a way to fuel our bodies, to recharge the batteries, to give ourselves energy, emotional eating is a way of eating to cope with difficult emotions and feelings that are coming up for the person in that moment, meaning they are able to push down the feelings with food instead of working through them and really learning to process those emotions and feelings in a healthy way. It is really a way to cope with the external and the internal stresses of life. And some people are more prone to emotional eating than others, and this can be for an array of different reasons. Maybe someone grew up in a specific environment that was particularly traumatic, and therefore they used food as a coping mechanism there and they've brought it into their adulthood. Maybe they grew up in an environment where food was a reward and it became something that they linked with pleasure, therefore they use it more prevalently in their day-to-day life. Maybe someone developed it later on and never really had an issue with emotional eating when they were younger, but as they became older and started growing up and had more responsibilities in their lives, they chose food as a way to help them feel good or to distract them from a certain bad emotion or feeling, to essentially give themselves a quick fix. So if someone is feeling particularly lonely, for example, they may use food to comfort them, to feel like they're not alone, just to really falsify the good feelings inside. And it doesn't really matter for them if they know that the shame and the guilt comes after that, which it does for a lot of people. They want to be able to really quell those emotions and feelings in that moment in time because they don't necessarily see another way to cope. If someone is feeling stressed, well, food releases dopamine in the body, and this can help with high cortisol levels. Cortisol is the stress hormone that is released when we are under pressure, when we feel stressed. And it's very interesting because unlike in the animal kingdom, when you see that an animal is stressed, they will not go to food to help them cope with the issue that they are dealing with in that moment. They either go into fight, flight, or freeze, because in that moment in time, they are likely under some kind of predatory pressure in that they need to prepare their body to run, to make sure that they are safe to get away from a predator or a threat to their life. So you will see the bowels empty, and we don't see this, but we know that in humans the blood rushes away internally in the torso and it rushes to the hands and the feet to help us prepare to run. But in the modern day, today, as humans, we don't really tend to have the same kind of stresses that animals do and the same kind of stresses that we as humans had way back when we could be hunted by very large, dangerous, scary animals, and we didn't have big houses to protect us. We didn't really take over the world like we have today. And we are also able to just go to a supermarket and pick whatever food we want. We're not so much hunter-gatherers anymore. So we know that when food is in the house and we're feeling stressed, we know that we can get instant gratification from that food. And so we are using food, again, as a coping mechanism to help us deal with the situation instead of sitting through it. And that's not to say that people who do emotional eat don't ever sit with emotions and feelings and try to work them out, but the short of it is that humans who are used to being able to sit with their feelings and process the emotions in a healthy way because they've been taught to in their early lives, or they've figured out how to do so later on in life, they don't tend to reach for food because they know the repercussions, they've done the work, or they just don't simply get that same amount of reward, that same reward factor as other humans do. Additionally, people like that may not necessarily choose food as a vice. Some people obviously go to other things like narcotics, alcohol, smoking cigarettes, sex, drugs, rock and roll, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of us will go to food because it is instant gratification, and it's really hard because we have to do it every day. It's not like an alcoholic where, I'm not saying alcoholism is easy to get over, but you don't need alcohol in your life to survive. but we do need food. We need to eat every day. It's difficult for someone who is pretty much addicted to using food as a coping mechanism, because how do you separate using food and for inappropriate reasons and using food for more appropriate reasons? I want to introduce to you the emotional eating cycle, and essentially this is the cycle which spirals out of control if we don't do something about it. We have something that upsets us. We feel an overwhelming urge to eat. We therefore eat more than we know we should or what feels good to us. We feel guilty and powerless over food, and the cycle continues. Something upsets us, and even though we know what that feeling of guilt and powerlessness to food feels like, we don't necessarily remember that in the moment when we're feeling stressed and upset about something. We just remember the good side. We know that when we eat food, we get that hit of dopamine, and that's going to help us make us feel better. Even if it is instant gratification in the moment of need, that's the part that we remember. We don't tend to really contemplate the levels of guilt and shame that happen after for a lot of us who have emotional eating issues. And the cycle continues, and so this is why it's really important for us to really address the issues when they happen as best as we can through things like therapy, through things like cognitive behavioural therapy, hypnotherapy, even things like meditation or sports, something that helps you focus your energy. Also activities that allow you to sit with the feelings and really learn to process your emotions and your feelings, because your feelings and your emotions are the most real thing you have. It's really your responsibility. It's your ability to respond to the situation that is important. This is not condoning bad behaviour that you were a victim of, potentially. It's not saying that you should forgive all the things that happened in your life all in one go necessarily. It's not saying that you weren't ever a victim of something, but it is your full responsibility as someone who maybe suffers with emotional eating to make the changes that you want to see in your life, because no one else is going to do them for you. Even if you go to things like therapy, it is very much a 50-50 relationship. It is not about you going somewhere and them fixing you or curing you. It is very important that you put the work and the effort in, and it will be so worth it in the end. And I know it can feel pretty frustrating when you're going through it at the time. I can tell you from not only my professional experience but my personal experience with emotional eating, that the second that you start the work and you get through things and you start to feel better and you learn how to deal with things appropriately, the second you will start to say to yourself, I wish I'd done this sooner. If you suffer from emotional eating and you really need a tool to help you start doing this work, I want to give you the acronym HALT. This is where you go through all the letters HALT and you can ask yourself these questions. And it is a very good way of helping you focus down into the moment and really become more present with your feelings and your emotions instead of running to food to help you cope. The first one, H, means are you hungry? Are you physically hungry? Do you need to eat food for your physiological well-being? Are your caloric needs not being met? Are you feeling anxious or angry? Are you feeling lonely or bored? And the last one, are you feeling tired? And instead of using food, again, to help cope with those emotions, you need to really serve your needs in that time with what is appropriate. If you are physiologically hungry, you're physically hungry in your stomach, you need to eat. And you need to eat a balanced meal without skipping whole food groups. You need to have your carbohydrates. Your brain feeds off of glucose. If your brain is being well fed and your body is being well fed, the likelihood of your feelings of anxiousness can diminish. Now, that's not to say that just eating a meal is going to solve all your issues, but a lot of us have these issues of feeling very anxious and upset and stressed because when we really think about it, we're not actually being fed the proper nutrients and calories that we need. If you are feeling angry or anxious, what are some appropriate steps that you can take in that moment? Can you call a friend? Can you journal? Can you whip out your phone and literally start filming yourself as if you're talking to yourself and just voicing your opinions and venting to yourself or someone that you trust. Do some kind of activity to help raise your dopamine levels and lessen your cortisol levels. Are you feeling lonely or bored? Is there someone, again, that you can reach out to? Do you have any friends or family or loved ones? And if you don't, do you have a healthcare professional that you can reach out to? Are you going to therapy? Are you voicing your feelings and thoughts to someone? It is very important that you're not trying to deal with these things alone. You are not an island. And are you tired? Do you need to just go to bed and have a really good long sleep? And do you need to improve your nighttime routine? It's not so much just about getting enough hours in the night. It's, are you getting enough hours of good quality sleep? Are you going to bed at a regular time? Are you waking up at a regular time? These are all things that can really, really affect your feelings and emotions. This exercise is a really, really good one. It is research-based, tried and tested, used in the industry. And if you can get a chance, note down some of the feelings that are coming up for you. Write down very simply, number one, I am feeling stressed because, and put down the first thing that comes to your mind. Don't think about it, there's no right or wrong answer. Just say what you're feeling. And then you take that end bit and you say, okay, I'm feeling that because, and keep going and see where you come to in the end. Ultimately, emotional eating is using an external solution to try and solve internal issues. When we are emotionally eating, when we try and just deal with the emotional eating itself, that is just the symptom of a much deeper issue. Okay, so if you can imagine a weed or a plant, the seeds have been sown previously in previous years and they've grown into this plant of insecurity, loneliness, stress, anxiety, depression, whatever it is that someone is trying to deal with. Those are the leaves of the plant. So when someone seeks counsel or therapy or help and they are just looking at the symptoms of the deeper root cause issue, you're not going to solve the issue at hand because you are just trying to cut off the heads of the weeds and it's just going to keep growing because that seed is still planted. So if you feel that you would like therapy, you would like support, you can book a free consultation call with me. It's a half an hour. We can chat about everything it is that you're struggling with, what your goals are. It's a safe environment. It is, of course, completely confidential. And we can see if therapy might be for you. So you can find the link down below if you'd like to go ahead with that. So that's everything for today. Thank you so much for watching. You can find all my details in the description box below. Please like, follow, comment wherever you can. I really appreciate the support. You can visit my website and all my other social media channels. I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, everything. So don't be shy, reach out, start a conversation. You can vent in the comments if that feels good and safe to you, and I will see you next time in my next video.